All right, we're working on a 99 STX 1100. Issue I'm having is I have a fuel leak at the top of the gas tank. Just finished filling it up with gas and started smelling fuel. You start smelling fuel in here. I came right to this area here where the tank is, and I actually started noticing right in this area, see if you can see, in this area there was fuel dripping down, and so I went up to the top here. So you can't really see anything from here. I mean, you can see that where the fuel's leaking, but you can't tell. Is it the bottom seal? What is it, a hose? What is it? So you got to gain access to see everything up there. So you've got to remove the pad so that you can gain access to get this box out. So there's two screws up here, one here and one here. There's one down here, and there's one here, which is behind this plastic case here. So in order to make this plastic case drop down so you can gain access to this screw, you got to remove these two bolts, and then there's a bracket underneath you just have to grab so it doesn't fall. So once you remove this, you can gain access to these, the nut. So there's bolts that are part of the pad, and there's a nut that holds it on from the back. So you'll be able to gain access to this nut as soon as you remove these two bolts and drop that down. Okay, then to gain access to the nut that goes to this, you're just gonna reach your hand right inside here, and you'll see there's a nut and a washer right here on the panel. And then there's two nuts here as well from the inside. So you have to lift up this here, remove this panel here, and stick your hand in over there, and you'll be able to feel. Remember that there's washers there, so be careful so you don't drop the washers. Okay, and then on this other side, it'll be the exact same thing. There'll be two nuts that you need to get that are in this area, and they're a little bit more difficult to get on that side for whatever reason, but you can get them. It's just a 10mm wrench. When you have it off, these are the bolts right here. See, they stick out. They're part of the pad. Okay, so the bolts stick out, and there's a nut on them with a washer, so don't drop the washer. Okay, to gain access to my leak, I had to pull this cover off and then move this panel here out of my way. So I have to slide it to the side so I can see everything in here. So you can see I can gain access to the fuel sending unit, the fuel pickup tube, and then you can also clean your tank from right here if you want to pull that out. It just pulls out. You got to take these two bolts out on each side of here because the bracket that's there needs to just be moved out of the way. You have to move your oil tank a little bit out of your way, so just undo the front rubber bracket, undo it, and then just pull forward a little bit, and it'll allow you to move the bracket just enough so you can gain access. I'm not even concerned with the bracket as much as if I just reach in here and start moving this black thing, the bracket will just move out of my way on its own so you can see everything in there. Now, my leak was coming from my pickup. So I'm going to show you guys. Let's see if we can see in here. This thing here, there's a round O-ring underneath it. And it's interesting is last night when I filled it up, I noticed it was seeping. And then this morning when I woke up, it wasn't. And I thought, oh, maybe my fuel just got low enough, you know. So I went and I topped it back off. And then it wasn't leaking this morning. Funny. So listen, there's an O-ring in there. I have another pickup here I'm going to show you guys. There's an O-ring that goes in there, and usually when they sit all year with no fuel in them, the O-ring will dry up and it may shrink. So here's a pickup here, okay, and here is the O-ring that goes on it right here. Now this one is dry and cracked, okay, and I would not want to use this one again. But the one that's in there wasn't dry and cracked, it's actually nice and soft. So this would be my old pickup. I tore it apart. Here's the pickup pieces and whatnot. So anyway, this is the side that typically goes down. This is usually got a rubber O-ring around it that seals the top. And I had removed it, inspected the seal that was there, and it was still nice and soft, wasn't ripped. And I thought maybe the screws were loose or something. So I just reseated the seal, put it back on, let it sit, and then I didn't notice any leaks. So an hour later I came back and I noticed it was leaking again. So I did go ahead and I removed and pulled it all back out, because I started noticing that it didn't look like it was leaking from the sides out, but it was actually leaking from up on the top area. So what I discovered is when this piece is on in here and it spins, there's actually a seal underneath this, and this is not made to be rebuildable, but I was able to get it apart. A little plastic groove right there that this snaps into the groove in here. So if you can get underneath it with a pry bar on each side, which is what I did, and you can pop it off with then you can gain access to this piece. Now this piece is inside of here like that, and then this piece is in there and it holds it from these little grooves here on the side. So you can take a little pocket screwdriver and just push in on those and you can pop this out. Once you get this out, you can slide this up. And there is a rubber O-ring that goes around that little, into that little groove right there. And I actually dropped the O-ring on the floor yesterday and I haven't found it. But anyway, the O-ring is what was leaking on this particular one. So basically the fuel, because the seal wasn't sealing, was seeping out of this big cup area up and then out the sides and down. So this whole pickup was basically considered bad and needed to be replaced. So this ultimately is what I ended up replacing. What I've done at this point is replaced this pickup. There's basically 4 bolts here, these 4 bolts, and then it just lifts right up. So the this turns left to right. And when you're taking it off, you may have some issues getting these cables off. What you want to do is the 2 bolts, and I'll show you in the video here in a second, but the 2 bolts, loosen those as much as you can. And then what you want to do is turn it in one way or the other direction and see if you can get like a pick. What I ended up doing was I used a pick and I literally got under the cable and brought it all the way up to the edge here, and I was able to get one of the cables to slide out just by taking this cable and lifting it up over the edge of here and carrying it up this direction to skip this rounded area. That gave me some slack in the cable by bringing this cable up over the edge and bringing it straight up. And then I just, with my pick in here, brought the cable around and I was able to pop it out. And that's how I got the cables out without having to take everything else apart. So that's the function of that. I'll show you guys in the video the cable I was talking about here. See if you can see. You'll have these 2 cables here, and they have a nut and a washer on the end of them. Let's see if it shows up in the video. There you go. See, you have to loosen those nuts and washer all the way up, and then you'll have to loosen the nut on the other side of that all the way completely off the other direction so that that can slide back. And then the cable slides through the little groove, and then that's how you take them on and off. Now, if you want to be real careful, try not to move the cables, because if you do, on this switch up here, when this is turning, the cables go into a little round thing up here as well. And I was moving the cables and I actually had one of the cables fall out on me. They're not hard. Basically, you just have to turn this in the same direction. You'll see that there's basically a hole here and a hole here for a cable, and the cable goes around like that. So the cable goes from here all the way around like that, and then same thing with this cable, it'll start from here and go around like that. And so when you turn them, that's how they rotate. So I was able just to reach my hand back in there and feel around, and I got the cables back in. So you don't have to take any of this apart up here, so don't get carried away when you're changing it. Anyway, so it is now all back together and no more leaks. So thanks for watching. I also did want to point out I did find that O-ring. If that was the O-ring, it's kind of flattened out, and that's what was leaking. So that would just go on here like this, and then that just goes inside of here like that. And so that's where it was leaking, was up here. And so when this is all together, it basically would be leaking down and then along this area here. So that's what the problem was. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this helps you guys out.